Well, my maiden name was Fanny Goodis. I was born in Brownsville on Osborne Street, April 16, 1918. And the first time I saw my birth certificate, I was shocked. My name is Baby Goodis on it because I was born in the house. They didn't prepare, or maybe I was born earlier, I don't remember. I never asked questions about it, but they were not prepared with a name. So my name, and everybody said, anybody that called, hey babe, I said, how'd you know my name? And my mother was 39 years old when I was born. It's on the birth certificate. I was so shocked at that time. But my sister said I was a noops baby. I was a little accident. She always used to kid me. My sister's 5 years older than me. She said, you? I don't know if they wanted you. You were a noops baby. Okay, but I'm happy. I'm here. I was the last of 6 children, 3 boys and 3 girls. My father's name was Lazarus, and he was a carpenter. He died of lung cancer in 1933. And my mother was a housewife, a very crazy, clean house person. She washed her windows every week. She washed windows that my brother, his friend, called him, and he didn't know the window was closed, and he went through the window with his head. She was a good mother, very good to the children, and she died of cancer too, in the pancreas at age 75. I was a very, very active in any kind of sports. Stickball and roller skate, hockey, from sewer to sewer. But I played with all boys, no girls. And then from then on to school, I went to PS 84 on Stone Avenue. That was elementary, and then from there I went to junior high. We had a baseball team. We finally got to play a team in Chicago. That was our visiting team that came here to play. We played at Yankee Stadium. That was the thrill of my life, to be there. At the age of 14, I met the Dumont Avenue girls. And one of them was your mother. There was Sylvia, there was Blanche, Mimi, Stella, about 4 or 5 others. And we all saw each other practically every day, and we organized a club. The name of the club was Club Vertise. We had a president, vice president, treasurer, and we had an election, so each girl got a chance of doing the job. And we talked about what we would like to do. And Sunday we got all dressed up. We went to Prospect Park, and we went horseback riding. Our dues was 50 cents a week, and we saved that money, and I think once a month or whenever we accumulated enough money, we got all dressed up with our hats and all, and we went to a nightclub up in New York City. We took the train. The train was only 5 cents, and we took the train and we went up to New York, and we went to all the nightclubs. We gave each one a chance. And if a girl, we came to a meeting, if she came late, she got fined 5 cents. If she said a dirty word, she got fined 5 cents. And most of the girls were talking about boys. They used to walk around the corner because they said they're going for a walk, but they're going to take a look at the guy around the corner. And we finally found out why she was going around the corner. Once we started to go with our future husbands, once in a while we took them, and they didn't appreciate it, so we stopped taking them. We just cut them off for spending good money on them, and they complained. We took them to a show, and they walked out. And everybody wore a hat all the time. That was the finishing touches of getting dressed. It really completed the outfits that you were wearing. When the war broke out, Sam, Edie's boyfriend at the time, was inducted in the Navy. He sent her a letter asking her to come to meet him to get married. And she was in a little dilemma because she wanted permission for the club to give her a leave of absence to go to marry Sam when she finally made up her mind to go. As long as she put it in writing, we accepted, and we sent her a letter giving her X amount of time, or she had to start paying dues after that. And I went to work in a luncheonette up on Church Avenue, and Mimi worked for lawyers. She got $5 a week for 4 lawyers, and Mimi was very good with our minutes. She took it to her office and typed all the minutes for us, and we put it in a book, and I have it to this day. The biggest pastime was sitting on the stoop, gathering. One by one they came, and Sunday, after we got married, everybody tried to come back to Dumont d'Avignon Sunday, bring their child with them, and husband and wife, like families. It was a very close-knit camaraderie there. There were 3 groups of people, because 3 or 4 families had 9 children in the family. And we all lived in this ghetto, as you would say. So there was the big brother group, the middle brother group, and the younger brother group. But we didn't go out together, and we didn't do things together, but the group stayed in their own group. And then when they went out on dates at night, the boys, they'd come back to Dumont Avenue and sit there till all hours in the morning. They made so much noise that they always opened the window and said, "Get out of here, you bums." Dorothy, your mother, had a grocery store in the middle of the block, and Dorothy's mother, she ran the store. But Dorothy's father, he lost an eye. He was a painter, and he lost an eye. I don't know how, but he took care of the store. And years ago, the milkman came about 3 in the morning and put the cases of milk in front of the door with ice over it. And he used to get up at 4 in the morning and make sure that the milk was put away and the store was clean, and set it up for Dorothy's mother to come down about 7 in the morning, and then she stayed there until about noon, 1 o'clock. That's when she started at 9 o'clock to wake Dorothy up to come down from 12 or 1. And Dorothy stayed there in the afternoon because her mother needed the rest, and she came back towards evening. During the war, your grandmother's grocery store, she volunteered and gave her window in front of the store, and we got a printer, and every time a boy was inducted in the service or volunteered to go, his name went up on the window. Dorothy's father, good-looking man. Dorothy's mother, beautiful woman. They were such a handsome family. She had a brother, Joey, and a brother, Tootsie. Her brother, Tootsie. His name was Abe Felsher. And he looked like Cesar Romero in my eyes, because every one of us were in love with him. Not because he was so handsome. We knew him so well, and all the good things that he did. He was just a good person. Besides his looks, he had a very strong walk and very sure of himself, everything he did. He was very protective of her. He loved her very, very much. And anytime she was dating somebody or just going to the movies, somehow or other he got wind of it, and he had to put his stamp of approval on everything that she did. Her father, he hung around with us, and he was always kibitzing with us, kibitzing. And he used to pull pranks on us. He used to tell, "Sylvia went to a party and you didn't get an invitation." And so we found out that he was kibitzing with us. He was stirring us up. And Dorothy spoke Yiddish fluently because her father spoke to her all the time, Yiddish. And she spoke Yiddish fluently. We spoke broken Yiddish because we didn't pay too much attention, and nobody spoke to us that much about it because they were interested in learning English. At my mother's home, I'll speak English to you and you speak Yiddish to me. That's how they learned English. And some of the ladies, their mothers went to school that didn't have 9 children. You know, Blanche had a house full of sisters and brothers, and Sylvia too. And everybody used to ask, where do they all sleep? We slept 3 in a bed. 3 in a bed we slept. 2 slept this way and 1 slept this way. We used to say it's a Jewish expression, sufficient. The other guy has to sleep and smell the 4 feet there, everything. We were poor. We all were poor, but we didn't know we were poor. And everybody lived the same way. You waited for Passover to get a new pair of shoes and an outfit. In September, you got a new pair of shoes and outfit. And that had to last you a whole year. Blanche's father was a tailor. He was funny. We used to get a piece of material and bring it up to him with a picture. He would make a suit, a coat for you. And he said, you want pockets? He took the chalk on our breasts and he made, you want pockets? No. Then he'd hit his hand on it and he'd erase it. And we say, hey, what are you doing? He said, you want pockets or you don't want pockets? I know in Sylvia's house, she had 5 brothers. Saturday night, the guy that got dressed first was the best dressed. He wore the best shirt that belonged to his brother. He wore the pants that belonged to this one. And the coat, maybe they had a cashmere coat, they shared it. Because the Silverman family were dressers. They all liked to dress. And that was very, very important to them. So they say, you can't wear that tonight. I'm going out tonight. He says, well, you know what you can do. Oh, and Sylvia's mother, she never went to sleep until after the last child came in Saturday night. Of course, we stayed out to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Everything was wide open, and we walked around. We took buses at that hour. So we never even had any idea of anybody would harm us. And Saturday night, if we didn't have dates, we'd go up to Sylvia's house. A girl would bring a boy would bring a girl, and we danced there all night long. The boys and the girls on the block, we went in groups, really. Somehow or other, you just teamed up with the guy you wanted to be with. Nobody had sex before they were married. In a car, maybe they had it, but there was only one car. They would wear the damn car out. Most girls, we went out to a movie, out to eat, and came home and just really fondled, you know, touched one another a little. But there was no place you came. Like, I lived at my sister's house in the walk-in with my mother, so I was sitting in her living room. There were people sleeping upstairs and sleeping downstairs. You had no hideout to go have sex if you wanted to, other than a car that was not yours, and you're not going to go rent it for the night. So no talk was ever of sex at all. The boys, I guess they knew where to find it on the outside, as you would say. They'd date other girls, but before they committed themselves to one of the girls on the street, they dated. They went out on dates, but we didn't even date out. We went out with what was around. Where are you going? You're going to the movies? Okay, we're going with you. That's the way the thing worked out. As far as everybody getting married on Dumont Avenue, you know, 1 year old, you're 1 year smarter. And all of a sudden you realize, you get up one morning, I think I like this guy. Or the fellow would say, I think I like this girl. And they started to go to the movies together. And first of all, with Herman and Dottie, he had a car. We all piled into the car. We went wherever he took us. It just fell into place, meeting your mate. As far as dating, we never really came in contact with Gentile people to date. because we had so many people in our vicinity that we all stayed in our own area. And truthfully, we knew the consequences if you did meet somebody and want to get married. Your parents were religious, or if they weren't, they had very deep feelings about marrying out of your religion. And they did. They really pronounced you dead. They actually went to a ritual of being, you died, and they said a prayer, and they just wiped you off the map. Because the thinking was different. You recognized that, Friday night we came home, there was candles lit on the table and a challah that your mother baked that day, everything fresh for Friday and Saturday. And Saturday night, the light on the stove stayed on all night because they never lit a stove, never lit a match. They had the water boiling so to keep the fire going. And Saturday night they shut it off, but they didn't do any cooking, only warming up. And there wasn't too much money around to make weddings. Some people had their fathers, they were around, or their father, like Mr. Felcher, he wasn't working, so there wasn't a big wedding or anything. And Herman, your father lived with his mother, Sarah, and Max, and Carl in the back of the store. They had a storefront on Osborne Street, and your father was a salesman. He went out, took the measurements of a couch, a chair, and everybody lived with slip covers. Because they had so many children, they preserved the furniture. Herman's father was a cutter. Herman brought the measurements in, and Herman's brother, Carl, he was at the machine. In fact, when Herman and Dottie got married, Herman didn't eat much meat. And Dorothy was used to her family, her mother cooking real Jewish meals. He lived on salmon, canned salmon, and salad, and bananas and cream, because she had no time to cook, his mother. So when Dorothy got married, she had a problem. I don't eat this and I don't eat that, but eventually he liked it. He got used to it. And Herman made a nice living because he was working. Other boys weren't working. They couldn't get jobs, menial jobs. They got jobs. The Ideal doll factory, anybody that got a job there got a job for somebody else. So it was a minimum wage. Herman, he was a nice guy. He was very much indulged in making a living, really. I guess he anticipated a large family, and he wanted to give your mother the world. And he was very good to her. And his brother Carl, he married a girl named Doris. Carl loved Doris very, very much. Doris was a very, very outgoing person. She always had ideas. Anytime you were in Doris's company, she was the life of the party. She always thought of something to do, and we went along because we really had good times with her. I don't know if Carl was jealous, but Herman was very jealous. If anybody talked to her, he didn't like it. He was very jealous. And Carl was a sweetheart, a lovely boy. Then Herman and Carl, they went into business in Rockaway. They did very, very well. Carl was still at the sewing machine. Everybody used to kid him that Herman put a ball and chain around his leg. But he did beautiful work. They did such beautiful work. This apartment is an example of Herman's technique. Herman was a slipcover, and he was a inside man. He took care of the ordering and he got his jobs. Went out on to decorate, give estimates on big homes out in the 5 towns. It was a rich area in Long Island. And they did very well for a good number of years. A lot of the kids had nicknames. Carl, he called him Roxy. And the story that I got at that time, that he had a blind date and he had to go up to 42nd Street to the Roxy Theater and meet the girl. And I think she stood him up. So that name, Roxy, remained for years. And whoever met him knew his name was Roxy. They didn't even know his first name. I was the last to get married because everybody else was married way before me and my family. At your parents' wedding, when they were getting married, and every girl went with a boy, and Sidney asked me to go, and we started to date. That's when it happened. You realize this guy's interested in me, and he's a great guy, he's a nice guy. We dated for a while, and then the war broke out. He was drafted, and he had an accident. He lost his two fingers in a press machine, and it was from the knuckle down that they were taken from him. But they took him into the service, and he didn't see any action at all. He loaded the airplanes. Sidney got his arm release, and he was coming home from the service, and all the boys and girls that were around gathered up in his mother's house waiting for him to come home. And he did finally show up, and he made a few stops on the way home with his buddies. He came in bombed out of his head, happy as a lark. Sidney, every time he drank, he became happy. After the rabbi pronounced us man and wife, Sidney broke the glass, and we turned around to go out, and my mother wanted to kiss me or get near me, and he looked like he was going to give her a shot in the jaw, which was just him. That's his way of doing things. And he took the bouquet of flowers that I had, and he pointed it like he had a machine gun, and he was going to shoot all my relatives. Everything he did was a fun thing. This year, we made a New Year's Eve party over at Al and Flo's home. And Sidney got himself a little high, and he became the life of the party. And we were all sitting in the living room, and we thought he went to the bathroom because it was right near the bedroom. And he comes out wearing an outfit that belongs to Flo. Well, all night long he did that. He went to her closet, to her drawers, wherever and he coordinated himself. He came out with a girdle and a brassiere, or pantyhose and a girdle and a brassiere, or a dress, and he really, really went through everything that she owned. And she wasn't even angry. She was enjoying it so much. He really gave us a good time that night. And he kept the party going all night long. When I married Sidney, I inherited Sylvia. She was his sister. And we had a good friendship until the day she died. I took care of her when she was sick. I took care of her when she was well. She was a good friend. Sylvia had very, very high dreams. Growing up, maybe 13, 14 years old, she said, I'm going on an African safari, and I'm going to have a lynx coat. Sylvia wanted a crib in the whole world all her life. Big ideas as a young girl sitting on a stoop. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. She got the name Cavey because Sylvia didn't come out until evening. I don't think your mother ever thought about going to bungalow colonies, but as the family grew, that was the best thing to get away for the summer. We started to go to Kessler's, and Doris really was the first one to do it, and then your mother. And we got a big bungalow because I, at that time, wanted to be with your mother. Sylvia had a small place, a one-bedroom right next door, and there was Anita and Mickey and Billy. That's my sister-in-law. Sidney's sister, she was there. And then Sidney's brother, Al, and his wife were there. And Sylvia and her husband. That was 4, and your mother and our bungalow was 5, and Rosie and Laser were there with their 4 children. I don't think Sammy was born at that time. I know there were 1 or 2 more. About 7 families moved up together. And we had our own party. It was near FDR's home, his summer home, Hyde Park. The men used to come up on Friday night and leave early Monday morning. Some men came up during the week. It all depends on what business you were in or what kind of occupation you had. Al Silverman didn't use his car because he worked in Jersey and his co-worker picked him up every morning. The car that Al left there was a godsend. It was a savior. I piled the kids in the car and we sang songs going to Dairy Queen in town. They all got out of the car and lined up because I was afraid I'd lose some of them. In fact, one day I think we missed Mindy one time, but Mindy was a wanderer. They looked forward to it every night to go to Dairy Queen. And they went to day camp, so they learned a lot of songs, Hebrew songs, American songs, and they were different ages. But they all sang the same thing and enjoyed themselves. And most of the kids learned to swim. But Alan was a very good swimmer. He loved swimming. He really knew how to swim very good. He loved to try to beat the men swimming, but they always cheated him. While he was swimming, they were running out and running it to the end of the lake, and they said they won. And then they had a stupid thing going. How it started, only one God knows. They used to pull down the men's pants when they weren't looking. Everybody was so aware of it. The men themselves were so scared. If they got in a conversation with somebody, they'd pull their shorts down. And Al Silverman resented it, so he once threw a chair at somebody. In front of my daughter, you do something like this? And it was something that it became a rage. You were a victim all the time. Once you walked out of your house, you were a victim. You never knew when it was going to happen. I don't know if they took it in stride or they liked it or why they did it. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Well, there was a birthday party for Sylvia's daughter, Mindy, and Sidney went into town with this fellow, Ronnie, and they went into a bar and had a couple of drinks, and we were anticipating an evening birthday or some kind of big thing. And we worked all morning putting up decorations in the barn. And Sidney and Ronnie came in, and we were having the birthday party for the kids outside. And they went into the barn, and they pulled down all the decorations. My husband did it, so I became angry. And while serving the kids, they had frankfurters and beans and hamburgers. I threw each hamburger, spoonful of hamburger on a plate. How it didn't bounce and hit them in the face, I don't know. But when I walked into that barn, I was heartbroken, working all morning with all the decorations. But I got over it by the next day. Because God forgive him, he didn't know what he was doing. I was the last to get married, and after a year or two, you try to have a family, and nothing happened. And at that time, they didn't know that much about it. I tried. I went to a doctor religiously, a few doctors. They couldn't find anything wrong, and it just didn't work. So, and as far as adopting, we couldn't afford it at that time. They were very, very particular. It was a large sum of money, and you had to have a room for the child. And we were lucky we got an apartment. Then your mother conceived with Alan, and then the second baby came, Fred, and the third baby came. I was there all the time, and I got very, very much attached to all these children. They were like mine. The feeling was through my whole body that they loved us, and they relied upon us. And I was always happy to be there when they needed us. And I called them my children. It was very hard for me because I felt I was stepping in Dorothy's. I wasn't stepping in Dorothy's shoes, but I was stepping in her domain. Her children were her life, and they were my life too, so I feel that I can call them my children. And when she died, I said to myself, Dorothea left me 5 beautiful children. And God is my witness, I did say it. I didn't know Susan very well when she was born, and they left me when she was 3 years old to move to Belmore. And that was the saddest day of my life, because I felt everybody deserted me. But they didn't get rid of me. I showed up whenever I felt like seeing them, and these kids pulled me there. I couldn't rest unless I saw them. Friday night, the men, Al Kirschman and Sidney and I and Sylvia, we drove up to Belmore, and the men played cards, smoking cigars. You walked in, it was kind of thick, the smoke, and they were in the kitchen, and we were in the living room with a glass in our hand, and we were like the Jewish Goodfellas. That's what we were. I think Stella was part of it, and Marge, Doris, Sylvia, I. We'd sit around for a while, and naturally, everybody liked to have a little drink to relax them. We stayed till about 12 o'clock. When the men were ready, we picked them up, and back to Brooklyn we went. And Sarah and Max, Herman's father and mother, they used to come to see the children, just maybe on a Sunday, or every Jewish holiday they came to visit, and they always gave them silver dollars. And Alan left it on the dresser, but Freddie hid it in his drawer. Freddie hid everything. And if you moved it a quarter of an inch and he went to the drawer, he knew somebody was in the drawer. But they were very nice. They enjoyed the children, and the children didn't like the kissing. Herman's mother used to grab them and kiss them, suck them, suck them. Alan used to say, she's coming to suck me. Alan was so cute, smart. We used to walk in the street, and your father thought he was a genius. It took me 50 years to realize what he was doing. He used to look at a car and tell you what car it was. Now I realized he was looking at the design in front of the car. He had a good memory, Alan, and he was very, very conscientious about learning about presidents. You'd ask him what year this president was born, and when he was in office, out of the top of his head he did. He was very smart. And the next born was Fred, the little old Puerto Rican. You're going to kill me. And Fred, he never took no for an answer, Fred. Never took no for an answer. And they used to laugh at him when he sat down to eat. He used to mix his food, his dessert with his, and yuck, they used to say, Ma, how can he do that? He was a warm child, a very warm child, a very concerned child, and very much attached to me because he was the middleman. And the middleman needs a little more attention. Ricky was a good boy, very good, very nice. He was born with a lot of hair, and your mother used to put a blanket from the hood of the carriage to the front of the carriage. You say, oh, how's your new baby? He's fine, he's sleeping. She didn't want to show him to anybody. And God, the truth, he wasn't a good-looking baby, but he turned out to be the best-looking one. He had a friend next door, Stephen, and he once came in and he said to Dottie, Ma, Stephen says you're a shit. You're not a shit, Ma, are you? So she said, no, and don't you use that word anymore. He didn't even know what he was saying. Fane was born in June. As a baby, she had a head of hair. You would think that she was a teenager. And her eyes were oriental looking. She was 6 weeks old when we gave her a permanent. We could have killed that poor baby, but we didn't realize it. We were playing house, I suppose. I don't know. I don't even know what possessed us to do it. But I don't think it even came out curly, because she had very straight hair. And as she grew up, she cried for every little thing, whether she wanted something or get her way or just anything that happened. She cried. Whenever you looked at her, there were tears coming out of her eyes. And she was, well, Dorothy cried every time anything happened, she cried. She just couldn't hold it in, just like her mother, I suppose. Well, Susan was a tomboy, and the first time I ever really enjoyed buying was your sneakers. You came home with Jackie Kansky, had a son named Randy, and you borrowed his high sneakers, high kids, and you refused to give them back. So I told you I would buy you high kids, because you said to me, get me kids, because they run faster. That's just what you said to me. You were always attached to me as a little kid. Every time you saw me, you had to be around me. The warmth I get from them keeps me going. I know I can count on them for anything. And everybody knows them here. I always say, my kids are coming down. And they just take it for granted, they're mine. And makes me feel good that I have a beautiful family. This is my family.
Only you, long as I may live,